Hello, hello, hello. I hope you're all having an amazing day. Today, it's all about the art of compromise. And so, let's compromise. And you know what? We should always seal every deal with a kiss. So, if this video resonates with you, it's all about spreading the love, so sharing is caring. Because I think this message needs to go out to more people. Compromise. What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the word compromise? Compromise. I'm going to play with this. I'm totally going to rap. It's just going to come through because I've had this on my mind this morning. It just kind of popped in. Ultimately, compromise. You can play with words. I love words because when you take words and you break them down, there's Latin translations, there's the part of the word, the first part that can mean something, the end of the word can mean something, conjunctions, creating even more. It's all about uniting, creating meaning, and it's in words and it's in people, places, and things. It's in how we relate and interact with one another. And compromise is at the root of all successful engagements, relationships, because relationship is all about how do I relate to this, that, or the other, or to you, or to myself. How do I relate to anything? I could be relating to the wind as it touches my body, as the sound of the chimes overhead. How do I relate to that? How do I relate to the tree behind me and the bamboo? There's a compromise in everything we do. But how much can we yield and wield the paintbrush of life and become more artistic and creative with our methods and modes of compromise? So compromise, think of it this way. If we break it down from the compound, promise. The word compromise comes from the Latin word compromissum, and it means mutual promise. But how many of you out there just cringe when you hear the word compromise? It's like, oh, what's the stigma around the word compromise? What is it that it conjures up in you? What do you feel in your physical body like compromise is this evil word? It's coming to take something away. Because I know that's the way I hear the word compromise around me quite regularly. But it's unwarranted. It's just the way, just like anything, the word has been perverted. It's been used to mean something that is not its original root, intended meaning. Compromise is about a mutual promise. Yes, there is a give and a take, but that's the receptivity of life. It's whether we are willing to give, are we willing to receive, and how do we dance and flow with these energies. A compromise, a mutual promise, means two people, let's say, maybe more, are willing to come to this mutual promise, are willing to agree, to understand, stand under another person, to find a balance and a harmony that is heart resonant versus head resonant. Now, compromise most of the time is coming from the head because we're like, oh, so we'll go back to stigmas. What is your stigma with the word compromise? Tell me in the comments. I want to know what it is that compromise brings up for you and what it makes you think of. What's the first thing that pops in your head? Do you feel like you're being told you need to give up or give in or you're going to lose something? Before I started this video, I mentioned to the ladies here at the desk in Yoga Village, I said, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the word compromise? Oh, I don't know. Oh, wait a minute. What do I have to give up? What are you going to take from me? What am I going to lose? It's so easy to get caught up in the fear side of a word or an experience that hasn't even happened because we're so caught up in the mind. The mind was already creating these stories of what needs to go in order for there to be a mutual accord. But nothing needs to go. When you're meeting someone halfway, you're creating this mutual promise with another person, the real compromise is about uniting people, not dividing them, not creating argument. Compromise is really something beautiful, and if we can harness and create, this fluid art with compromise, we can come together and promise the other person, I will do whatever I can to meet you where you're at, as you are telling me you're just as willing to meet me where I'm at as best you can. Sometimes we have to give a little bit more. Sometimes we receive a little bit more. This is the beautiful dance of life. There is never anything lost. It's just carried forward, and it goes, it ebbs and it flows, just like the ocean, the tides, the water, emotions. We compromise our integrity all the time. That's a different form of compromise. We want to stay in alignment with what resonates with our heart. And so we should take this word compromise and see it as an opportunity, as opposed to, ooh, what's being taken away from me? I can't handle this. This is, I don't know. What's this all about? In order to receive, we have to be willing to give. And are you one of those people who maybe is still caught up in I need to get, which means you're not receiving, you're not allowing the receptive receiving, but you're willing to take in a way that it feels like you have to force it? See, now when you start doing things like that, now you're compromising your integrity. Because if you have to force anything in life and it goes against your heart, and see, now this is a moment for discernment. If it's against the heart versus the head, you can get, if it's a lot of frustration, it's coming from the head. And the heart will feel heavy if it doesn't align. If the heart feels heavy, then it's something you need to listen to. Compromise is how we find peace and harmony in the world. Compromise also means that people are willing to come together to be happy and in accord versus unhappy and trying to prove one needs to be right or vindicated or deserve more, or nobody deserves more than another person. Life is about experience. And when you're keeping score, keeping track about, ooh, I deserve more, or that person's not doing enough for me, and I'm not receiving attention or appreciation for what I'm doing, and I am that too, by the way, I'm human. I get upset sometimes when I tend to overdo and not give to myself enough. What does that mean? It means I'm compromising, putting at risk my own personal integrity, and I need to come back into accord. I need to come back to a mutual promise with my heart and my soul of what is healthy and necessary for me to thrive. And this is the dance of life. We're all trying to find the fluidity, the flow, the ease, the grace, the things that bring us forward instead of keep us stuck or just unable to find our peace. When we're so stuck in our beliefs and our attachments, we see everything as that negative form, that stigma version of compromise. I have to have it my way. You're not going to take this from me. So as I go back to this art of compromise, another thing to consider is if you find yourself in a dialogue with somebody and you're trying to find the accord, you're finding this happy balance, this compromise, this mutual promise between you two to find what will work to keep the harmony, if you get triggered, whenever you're triggered by this compromise, 8 compromise, that's an opportunity to ask yourself, what are you so attached to? What are you afraid of losing? What is it you're unwilling to give up for happiness and joy between you and another person? This is always, of course, in the best case scenarios, because there are times when people are expecting or assuming that you will compromise and go against your own personal integrity for their benefit. But this is the art of compromise. This is the recognizing of whether or not it's heavy on your heart or really frustrating up in the head. We have a conflict quite often, and we have to find the compromise with the head and the heart. That accord, the peace, the balance, the happiness, the happy point, as opposed to that conflict, because the internal conflict that's happening up here is pretty much trying to shut out the heart. There's a beautiful quote by Yogi Bhajan that one of my teachers read off earlier today, and it was really, really sweet. We're kept alive by the beats of our hearts, not by the thoughts of our minds. Now consider that deeply, because how often do we neglect our true gut feeling, our knowing, everything that's of our being? We are our own litmus test. We can test ourselves and know, does this align or not? Or are we up in here? I mean, we're totally disconnected from the body. And you know the difference. You know yourself. But the question is, how attuned to it are you? How mindful and present are you to it? Right? Attunement comes in both directions. Tuning in and really being aware, being totally present with it. So, let me know if you're just now tuning in the comments. What does the word compromise, what does it conjure up for you? What does it make you think of? What is it that you feel in your body when you think of this word compromise? What does it mean to you? And meanwhile, I've got some strawberry kombucha. Oh, this is gonna fizz. Yum, super delish. So compromise is truly a gift. But sometimes we just see it as an opportunity to argue or to hold stuck in our pattern. I've heard equalizer. Now that's a good word. Equalizer, compromise. So compromise, like I said earlier, translated from Latin compromissum, means mutual promise. And even in the word compromise is the word promise. Come promise. Anytime you take a word and really look and really feel into it, this is how much I love words, you can find the signals, the signs, and everything you need to know about what it's trying to impart. If a word sticks with you, there's something it's trying to tell you, it's trying to bring something out of you. So if it triggers you, sit with it and ask, what does it make you think of? How does it make you feel? Does it make you cringe? Does it make you light up with joy? What is it? So Sarah says, makes me think, okay, so this way doesn't or isn't going to work, but there is another way that will. Beautiful. And that's the beauty. If you have two people, you're going to get two totally different perspectives coming from different backgrounds, behaviors, beliefs, all sorts of different experiences. And when you get two people, I personally love people for this. Because you can sit with one another and you can contribute your past to the other person through this dialogue, this compromise, and come to a formidable accord and agreement. Because you can never expect anybody to have your personal experiences the way you've had them, or there does not exist the exact same scenario. We all can say, oh, I've been there, I've done that, I've got the t-shirt, I know what you're talking about, I've had that happen to me. But the true reality is that every experience is so unique to each individual. You won't know what that other person experienced in what feels and appears or senses to be just like your experience. So compromise is giving both parties an opportunity to come in and sit with each other and go, I want to understand you, and the other person understand me, so that we can come to this beautiful harmony, this beautiful space that we not only grow from and learn, but we create an energetic vibration of resonance that ripples out. For every moment, opportunity, every time that it happens that two people can come to a happy compromise, coming to a promise, a mutual agreement, mutual promise, understanding of one another, that is uplifting other people. The more you are open and willing to see another person as they are, as opposed to, number one, trying to fix them, trying to tell them what they need, trying to impose your beliefs upon them, or enforce what you think is better for them, or just control in general, because that's all different forms of control. It's really important to recognize when you do that, because that takes away from those expansive moments. We want to all grow and expand and evolve out of the past. And it is a scary transition, because you have to go through the mourning process, you have to go through grief and the death that goes forward, because when you're stuck in your past, it's not serving you. All it's doing is keeping you small and holding you back. This is a compromise we make with life all the time. You're making a compromise. It feels uncomfortable. I'm going to do something new, because I know no matter how uncomfortable it makes me feel, it's going to take me out to the other side. And the other side, I have no idea about, but I got enough courage and vulnerability to show up and to check it out. And that will build courage every time I'm willing to do it. But because I'm showing up and I'm compromising with life. I don't even know what life is going to bring me. I am trusting in it. Compromise also requires trust in yourself and others. It takes trust, and it takes the vulnerable courage, knowingly unknowing what is coming out from all of it. So just like I just said, life is about compromise in all areas. But if once you're willing to recognize that compromise is there to serve you and you can serve it, you're going to uplift humanity and all the people around you every moment you are willing to detach from whatever it is that keeps you stuck in the past, or unyielding to another person. You know, you have those experiences where you're like, I won't compromise. Oh, you can't make me. When you're stuck in those, you can't make me, ask yourself what it is that's so important and what it is that you're afraid of giving up, that you think the other person is threatening you or taking from you. Nobody's ever taking anything from you. It's an illusion. It's all up in here. Nobody can take something from you you're unwilling to give them the power over you or allow them to do. So it takes that really mindful awareness, self-awareness, to just hone in and say, am I compromising my mind, body, and soul? Am I compromising? And when I say compromising, I mean, are you out of alignment? Because again, there's two ways you have to look at the word compromise. Compromise, mutual promise. You have to make a mutual promise with your mind, body, and soul that you're not going to put it at harm. Your ahimsa, which is do no harm, mind, body, soul, all of creation. When you make a mutual promise, that's that compromise. You align with what resonates mostly with the heart. The mind, it will try to trick you. It will try to bring you back into the comfort zone. Compromise typically will be uncomfortable because you're probably not used to it. Or if you are, sometimes it's scary because it's not fun. But why is always the question. And what about it is unfun or makes you cringe and feel like you're losing something or giving up something? So that is my question for all of you today. What is it that compromise conjures up in you? What is it that compromise scares you? What are you so attached to that you're unwilling to compromise? Life is not so difficult. We can move with the tides and the currents and gracefully flow with life if we're willing. But we have to be willing to show up. Fala conmigo. Okay, Samir, what is that? Fala conmigo. What does that mean? Get yourself a little booch. Get out in nature. Make a compromise with yourself, a mutual promise that you will go do something good for you today. That will also serve others. Because when you serve you, you serve others. When you maintain your healthy boundaries, when you show up for you, when you have that mutual promise with yourself, that you will stay in alignment and integrity with you, you're giving other people permission to do the same. So maybe from this day forward, you can look at the word compromise, promise, mutual promise, as an internal agreement that you will stay in your aligned integrity, and that if you come to a discord or some situation where you have to find compromise with another, you may be more willing to gift them an opportunity to be united with them and find a happy medium. You can't always guarantee the other person's going to be as yielding or wielding their perceived idea of power, because sometimes that's what compromise does. It brings up those, ooh, don't try to control me, don't try to put your grips on me, you can't lock me down. Like, compromise is not like that, people. It is not this physical evil animal with, I'm going to make you compromise. That's not what life is about. Life is about finding the joy and the peace, the harmony, and seeing this beautiful garden behind me. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just a small glimmer into my yogic life. Love this tree behind me. That is the wise woman tree. And I think that nature is the best example of how it stays in alignment and it stays in integrity. The roots of a tree, when they plant themselves, they go deep. They go deep. So life is, yes, a Thomas promise, right, Carl? Come promise with me, compromise. Oh, I hope you're having an amazing Tuesday. Tickle Me Tuesday. Remember, I love that quote. That really, really spoke to me today. It's what keeps us alive is the beating of our heart, not the thoughts of our mind. Keep that in mind today as you go through, and remind yourself it is not a sacrifice, although sacrifice means to make sacred. You are not going under fire. You are not being forced. Compromise is just your opportunity to sit with whatever it is you might feel comes up, whatever trigger it is that you're afraid to let go of, the idea that there's something you're possibly going to lose, maybe there's something to gain. Switch that little switch in your head and remember that for everything you think you're going to lose, you might have more to gain. So I love you all very much. Have an amazingly blessed day. Get out in nature. Sing hallelujah. Peace, peace, peace.